Let me tell you one of the scariest stories I've ever heard. In 1996, in Abilene, Texas, Brian Bethel was sitting outside of the local newspaper after working a late night shift. He was writing a check and completely alone. All of a sudden, the hair on the back of his neck stood up. When he looked outside, he saw a group of teens standing there. They approached him and asked if they could get a ride to their mother's house because they wanted to get cash to see a late night movie. This sounds like a normal teen thing to ask, but what was weird is that this movie that they were wanting to see had started 45 minutes ago. That wasn't the only strange thing, though. These kids were odd, to say the least. Brian said that they were talking like they were much more mature than what you would expect for a teenager. And then, in the dim light of the parking lot, he noticed the strangest things. Their eyes were completely black. There was no white in their eyes at all. The whole situation was incredibly strange, and he got a very ominous feeling about it. So instead of helping out these teenagers, he just took off. When he looked in the rearview mirror, the teenagers were gone, almost as if they had just disappeared. Brian would go on to write about his very strange experience in the Abilene News Reporter, and since then, so many more stories of these black-eyed children have popped up all over the world. Sometimes the details of these stories do change, but for the most part, what happens is that these children either knock on your door or try to come to your car, and they say that they have to be invited in. Like they cannot enter your car or your house without being specifically told that they can. And each time the people who experience this say that they have this very ominous feeling like there's something very wrong. Most of the people who have experienced this say that they do have the same feeling of dread or something's about to go horribly wrong, and they always say that these children act much more mature for what you would expect for the age that they present, and these kids present anywhere from kids that could be in kindergarten all the way to teenagers. Sometimes they'll be wearing clothes that are really outdated. Like there was one person who reported that this kid was wearing a shirt from a football team that had vanished 10 years ago. Not vanished, but collapsed 10 years ago. These kids seem to get more aggressive the more you deny them entry or access into your house or your vehicle. And some people have reported that they did let them in and terrible things happened after, like cancer diagnoses and the likes. And for the most part, it seems like people don't know what this is or even if it's true or not. But there are some urban legends around the world, like in Ireland, they have changelings or fairy babies. And in some Native American cultures, they have things that are called water babies or evil spirits as well that just choose to present themselves this way because we inherently want to help children. But what are your thoughts on this? Do you think that this phenomenon is real or is it just made up? And if you do believe in it, what do you think these black-eyed children are? Let me know down in the comments and follow for more creepy things.
You ever heard of black-eyed children, those little demon creatures? Well, they stalked me. This is such a wild story, but I absolutely have to tell it. So some years back, I was living in a really unique living situation. I was living in a national park. It only had room for the caretaker, but it was a duplex, so he ended up turning it into a rental unit. And I moved into there with my son. This decommissioned lighthouse was part of this national park, and it was right there on like a cliff peninsula in San Diego, right on the San Diego Bay. And so while you're like right there in the bay, you're still pretty isolated out there. And it was a very creepy location. Not least of all because you have to drive through an extensive military cemetery to get there. But basically the park, like any national park, closes at sunset, but this especially closed at 5. And after that, I would have to get in through a really rusty gate. I think it was pretty corroded because of the sea air. There wasn't much to be done about it, but it did make it a security concern when I would come home late at night and my little clicker wouldn't work. I used to MC karaoke, and so it wasn't unusual for me to get home at like 12:30, 1 a.m. I was already anxious to get home that night, but then of course, the gate was not working, and I kept clicking it because boy, did I not want to get out that night. I was like, open up, you rusty bitch, but it never did, and so I knew that was it. I was gonna have to get out. and do it manually. And I'm kind of bathing the whole thing in my headlights so that I can see the pin pad because I'm old and my eyes aren't working like they used to. So as I'm trying to figure it out, I hear this odd little voice say, "Ma'am, can you help us?" And I say odd because not only was it a child's voice, but it was kind of robotic, devoid of personality. Already so caught off guard. I mean, this was so unusual. We were way up there on a cliff. There is no way some kid could have just come gallivanting up. And it was hours after closing, so they couldn't have been left there by their parents. Just none of it. So as I'm looking around trying to identify where this voice came from, I start hearing the rustling in the leaves. And this voice says again, "Can you help us?" And I'm like, "Us?" Like one wasn't enough. So I identify where it's coming from. I look, and there are indeed two little freaking kids wearing hoodies, and even weirder, they're wearing sunglasses. Dude, it's like 12:30 at night, right? I was like, "Where are your parents?" They ignored me and said, "Let us in," at the same time. I said, "Let you in where?" And she hisses, "Anywhere." Now, before you say anything, I do have a maternal instinct. I do have a child of my own. And at any other point in my life, or even that day, I would have been happy to try and find their parents. But when I tell you that something about them was so off that I felt genuinely frightened. They were affectless, like robots, like automatons, just kind of standing there droning on. I was at a loss, and I was kind of in a whole fight or flight situation. And to my great relief, suddenly some headlights started bouncing up the hill behind me, which was very, very odd. No one lived up there except for me and the old caretaker, but I did not care. I was just so happy for the distraction. But wildly enough, while they had been rustling on the way in, they didn't make a noise on the way out because when I looked around, they were completely gone. So I get home and I call the cops just in case some strange little children had been left there. But they never found anybody. Now, I do wish this was the end of my story, but it is certainly not. They became a plague for me and my son, and with them came pestilence and nightmares, and we feared for our life. There is a whole story about these black-eyed children.
I have a black-eyed kid story time. The person who submitted this has been tagged down below. This actually happened to his cousin, Lex. So one night, about 2 years ago, Lex decided to run to the store to buy a battery for his key fob. His key fob had absolutely no power and he would have to manually open his door by using the key. Now Lex lives in the middle of nowhere and the only thing near him is a McDonald's or a gas station. As he's making his way to the gas station, he has this very odd, unsettling feeling, but he decides to shrug it off and continue on. When he pulls up to the gas station, he gets out and starts to walk inside of the building. As he's making his way towards the gas station, he sees these two boys standing on the side of the building. They look to be about 10 years old, so Lex just assumes that they're probably standing there waiting for someone. When he makes his way into the gas station, he asks the clerks about the two boys waiting outside. But when the clerk looked at the monitors, he doesn't see anyone standing out there, so Lex just assumes that the boys probably got picked up. And sure enough, when he walks outside, he no longer sees the boy standing there, so he starts to walk towards his car and decides to fill it up. But as he's pumping the gas in his car, he happens to look up and sees the two boys standing on the other side of his car. Immediately, his body is filled up with dread and this sense of fear that he couldn't understand. Both of the boys were wearing hoodies, so he could only see their nose and their mouth. The boys then asked him if they could use his phone to call their parents. Lex right away answered, "No, but you can go inside and ask the clerk to use his phone." The boys then asked him if he could give them a ride home, but he right away answered with, "No, I'm sorry, but I don't know you guys. I can walk you into the gas station to see if we can get a hold of your parents." At this point, the two boys go from being polite to now they're being aggressive, asking him for a ride, asking if they can go inside of his car. At that moment, the gas pump clicks, which scares the crap out of Lex, So he kind of jumps up, grabs it, and takes it out of his car and puts it back where it belongs. In that split second, the boys then start walking towards him. That's when Lex finally got a good look at their faces, and he saw that their eyes were completely blacked out. In that split second, Lex was frozen with fear, and he didn't really know what to do, when out of nowhere he heard a voice of a little girl go up to his ear and say, "Theo, get inside the car." He looks over, jumps into his car, locks the door, and speds off. As he's driving off, he can see the two boys standing there just staring at him. All he can really notice are their deep, jet black eyes. As he was driving away, Lex started to tear up because that experience shook him big time. As terrifying as that was, at the same time, he also felt safe because that voice in his ear made him feel like he was protected. And then it hit him. His niece had just recently passed away, and that was the voice that he heard telling him to get in the car, and she was the one that was keeping him safe. Meanwhile, Andre and his wife are sitting at home and they get hit with this sense of anxiety that they can't shake off, so they decide to call Lex. They ask him if everything is okay with him, and the minute he answers the phone, he starts to talk a million miles an hour and just tells them everything that just happened. He then tells him about the voice and explains that it was his niece. So Evie is actually Andre's daughter who passed away 3 years ago. They both started to cry, and as crazy as the whole thing sounded, they knew that she was around to make sure to keep everybody safe.
I'm finna tell y'all the story time about how my ex eyes had turned black while we was off the shrooms. And y'all, while I just recorded this whole story and was finna get ready to post it, and that shit deleted. Like, is that a sign? I never care about no sign, because guess what? I'm still gonna talk my shit. So y'all, boom. I'm not even gonna go into the little background. Boom. Me and my homeboy decided to go pick up some shrooms, and we took them bitches. And as soon as we took them bitches, that's when my ex wanna... Boom. Anyways, the nigga just ended up at my house. I'm gonna just say that. He ended up at my house with me, my homeboy. It was me, my homeboy, and him. It was all three of us. So me and my homeboy, I was tripping off them bitches. And like when my homeboy was in there, I was good. Like I was in the house, everything, like nothing was happening. So yeah, my ex pulled up, and it was like I felt so uncomfortable in that room. Like I didn't even sit inside. Like I couldn't even sit inside my own living room. I went and sat outside while them niggas talk, because they kind of cool or whatever. So boom, I'm sitting outside. My homeboy told me he finna leave. So me and him talking it out, and I'm just in my head like, Jordan, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Like, this is not it. This is not for you. This man is not for you. And he, like, we done showed each other plenty of times that we not for each other. But it was just like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. So, boom. We end up talking it out, and I just kept telling him, like, no, I don't want to do it again, da-da-da-da. Even though I'm not even gonna lie, I was drunk, and I text him, and he didn't text me back. So I'm like, you know what, fuck it, like, I tried, whatever. But he want to text me back when I done already took the shrooms, which I thank God for. So, boom, he at my house, we talking, and he was like, do you want to give it another shot or some shit like that? And I was like, nah, I really don't. Like, we too far gone. Like, it's really over. It's best if we just left each other alone. And he like, you sure? Like, I'm not saying he was begging, because, like, it take two people. Like, I could have told that nigga to leave. But it was just like, some of my spirit just kept saying, no, Jordan, don't do it. But guess what? I didn't listen. So, boom, I still had some shrooms left over. He ended up staying the night because my dumb ass was just like, you know what? Like, give it another shot. Let's see where the shit go. So, he ended up taking some shrooms. I ended up taking the rest because he don't want to take all of them. I took like I don't even know. So, we ate them bitches, y'all. I'm finna get ready to get in the shower. He in the bed. Y'all, when I got in the shower, it felt like somebody was standing behind me. It felt like somebody was standing behind me in my own shower. So I had to take a shower sideways. Mind you, I never felt like that. Never, ever, 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 ever. And I had damn near been in my apartment for like, I don't even know how long. A long ass time. It never felt like that. So, I guess we took them at the same time. So, I guess we both started tripping. But mind you, I'm already tripping off of them bitches. And I took a little bit more. But he took some too. So I get out the shower, and I get out, and he's just staring at the wall, smiling. And I'm like, you good? Like, I'm panicking, because I'm like, oh, shit, is this nigga tripping out? Because he don't really do them bitches like that. Like, anyways, he like, you don't see that standing right there? I'm looking like, it's nothing right here. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm like, bro, stop playing. Like, I watch scary movies, all that type of shit. I don't even play like that. I'm like, bro, chill out. He was like, okay, it's somebody standing right there, though. And to this day, I still don't know if he was for real, if he was saying shit, or I don't know. Or if that was just, I don't know. So I'm like, all right, bro, whatever. Like, I thought he was just trying to fuck with me. So after that, I ended up getting in the bed. We chilling, whatever. Maybe like an hour or two go by. And it was like when I blinked, mind you, it's not even dark in my room. Like, it's not dark in my room. Like, I got my TV on. Yeah, I blinked. When I opened my eyes back up, this nigga eyes black. And he just staring at me. And I didn't trip out or nothing. Like, I went like, what the fuck? I literally kept my composure, and I was just looking at him like I even tried to look away and then tried to look back, and them bitches still black. So I'm like, God, please. Like, what's going on? Y'all, this nigga lay on my chest just like this. Lay on my chest, looked at me, took his head and said, you do hair? Mind you, this shit is so fucking random. This is what kills me, y'all. This shit was so fucking random. He got on my chest, looked at me, took his head. Eyes pitch black now. He said, oh, you do hair? You could do voodoo. I'm like, point. Yeah, my heart is beating out of my chest, but I'm not showing that shit. Like, I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Like, you sound crazy as hell. Like, cause like I always tell myself, if I ever get into a situation where I'm scared, I'm never gonna show that I'm scared. Cause once you show somebody that you fear them, like, that's when the shit just get worse. So like, my heart beating fast as fuck. I can't control that shit. So heart beating fast as hell, and I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? He was like, yeah, you could do bad shit to people. Like, you never thought about that? You never thought about doing that? I'm like, bro, what? So y'all, at this point, I'm just like, you know what? I said, bro, get off me, bro. I don't know what the fuck you talking about. Then it got quiet. Then after that, he was like, what's wrong with you? I said, bro, why the fuck would you say that? Like, that shit just kind of scared me. I'm not even gonna lie. He was like, I ain't trying to scare you. I'm just telling you the truth. Like, you could do that shit. I'm like, bitch, wait. So, mind y'all, I don't even like to give personal information out there like that. Y'all, I'm not saying no names, but y'all know the nigga from New Orleans. Nigga born in New Orleans. Nigga went to college in New Orleans. Nigga always find his way back to New Orleans. And y'all already know what the fuck they say about New Orleans. So, at this point, I'm like, hold on. I said, did you put something on me or something? Because, like, I don't know what it was. I was head over heels for this nigga. Like, I was still doing me because he was doing him. But it was like, I was just so infatuated with this nigga. I love this nigga to death. Like, I was just him. Dumb bitch, I know. But, y'all, I'm like, did you put something on me? I asked him that, and he was like, he smirked, and he said, I got to touch you to put something on you. And he laughed, like, chuckled that shit off. I'm like, oh, fuck no. Oh, hell no. But after that, y'all, after that whole situation, y'all, our relationship just, that shit went so fucking downhill. That shit went so fucking downhill. I'm not even gonna lie, y'all. I was still a tad bit delusional. Not even, like, delusional, like, popping up and doing all that weird shit. But, like, just still think about him. But, like, now, I thank God he released me from them shackles. Thank you, Jesus, because that nigga is busted the fuck. I ain't even gonna say that. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the nigga doing. I don't know. But I'm just looking back at the shit like, the shit that I'm used to and the shit that I was, you know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't really adding up, and nigga probably did put something on me. I'm not even gonna lie. But that shit up off me now. What a big dick nigga said. But y'all know, for real, the whole point of this story time is to get my story up out of there. I'm not fucking crazy. And don't take shrooms with everybody. You can't take shrooms with random, not saying random people, but people that you just feel like shit be off with. You can't take shrooms with everybody. And yeah, niggas be demons. Niggas really be fighting demons. And the shit that he was going through at that time, and the time period that the shit happened, I don't even think that was him, because his mannerisms and everything had changed. Like, the whole trip, like, it was like a different person, but the same body, if that makes sense. Besides the eyes, like, y'all, I will never forget that shit. I will never forget that shit. Like, I'm not gonna say it traumatized me, but bitch, I'm over here tearing up thinking about that shit. Y'all, that shit was scary as fuck. You know how I was scared as hell and couldn't even say shit. Couldn't even do shit. But yeah, never take shrooms with a nigga that's battling demons. That's my story time.
Did you know that the legend of the black-eyed children started after multiple people reported seeing little girls with completely black eyes in Cannock, which is the area where serial unaliver Raymond Morris abducted several of his victims? An 18-year-old woman made the first report in 1982 when she was hanging out in Cannock with some friends, partying and having a good time, when she said she heard a little girl screaming for help. She said she saw a little girl around 6 to 8 years old running toward the woods screaming, "Help, mommy, help." She chased after her but eventually lost her as she got to the woods. The police were called, but they never found the little girl. When Raymond Morris passed away in 2014, there was a rash of sighting of black-eyed girls in the area. One man reported, "On Saturday the 13th of September, my wife and I were walking through Cannock with our dog. Once we had entered the woodland and the road was no longer visible, we started to hear the giggling noise of a little girl. To our amazement, a child no taller than 1 meter in height appeared as if out of nowhere further up the path in front of us. We stopped dead in our tracks after noticing her eyes had no color. Her head was tilted to the side in much the same way it would appear if she had been hung. She stared at us for a few minutes before running away into a densely grouped area of trees. My wife wanted to follow her, but I was having none of it." Another woman recalled, "Around 2 months ago, my daughter and I were walking through the area when we heard the screams of a young child. I couldn't tell if it was a boy or a girl, but they definitely seemed in distress and sounded very close to us, so we instantly started running toward the noise. We couldn't find the child anywhere, and so stopped to catch our breath. That's when I turned around and saw a girl stood behind me, no more than 10 years old, with her hands over her eyes like she was waiting for a birthday cake. I asked her if she was okay, and if she had been the one screaming. Then she put her arms down by her side and opened her eyes, which is when I saw they were completely black, no iris, no white, nothing. I jumped back and grabbed my daughter, and when I looked again, the child was gone. It was strange, really. I knew something was going to happen even before it did. I just had a weird feeling." And yet another mother was looking through the photos of her children in Cannock in 2014 when she spotted the, quote, ghostly figure of a child in a Victorian dress standing to the left of a tree where her children were climbing. We were on a family walk one afternoon and the kids decided to climb a tree. I stopped to take a photo, but it wasn't until I got home that I spotted a child's face looking back at me. Plenty of other people claim to have caught footage or photos of what they all say are little girls under the age of 10 with completely black eyes. So what do you think? Are these the victims of Raymond Morris doomed to haunt these woods forever?
Story time of the time that I encountered a black-eyed child. If this is the type of content that you're into, feel free to follow along. I post a scary story every single day. And for reference, I did share the story a while back when I had like 2 followers. I figured I would go ahead and reshare it now. This happened when I lived in Georgia. It was late at night. I was up watching a movie when I heard somebody knocking on my door. For whatever reason, my gut instinct told me not to open it. 1, it's creepy for anyone to be coming to my door so late at night. But 2, I just had this gut-wrenching feeling that something was off. I ended up getting up from the couch and I got near the door trying to figure out who was out there. And before I could even open my mouth, the person standing behind the door knew I was standing there and said, "Hi ma'am, I'm just here selling some magazine subscriptions. Can you please let me in?" I was a bit startled at first because how would he even know that I was standing there? I was definitely quiet. So I kind of peeked through the peephole and I saw that it was like a boy about to be maybe 12, 13 years old. He was wearing a hoodie. He was just kind of standing there. I decided to ignore him. He continued to knock on my door and start saying, "Please, ma'am, if you would just let me borrow a corner of your table so we can talk about these magazine subscriptions." And I'm just like, no. And he's just knocking and knocking and knocking until he gives up. He turns around and he goes right across where my neighbor lives. I hear when he knocks on her door and she opens it. The minute she opens the door, I hear the boy say whatever it was he was gonna say to her, and all I hear is her scream, say, "Honey," like calling to like her husband, and then she just slams the door shut. Right after that, it was complete silent. I didn't hear anything else. The next morning at like 7 a.m., my neighbor came knocking on my door. I looked out and I saw that it was her, so I opened it and she was freaked out. And she begins to ask me if a boy had been at my door the night before. So I explained to her and I said, yes, somebody knocked on my door and I saw when he knocked on your door. She then goes to tell me that when she opened the door and he started to talk to her, she saw that his eyes were completely blacked out. Like even the white parts were completely blacked out. And she got this gut-wrenching feeling that her first instinct was to yell for her husband, and she slammed the door shut. That was one of the first times that I had ever even heard about the black-eyed kids. And once I did more research, I found out what happens if you open the door. So black-eyed kids bring death. They bring chaos. They bring sickness. They bring loss of money, loss of income, loss of job. They just bring the worst of the worst. Thankfully, she did not allow him into the house, but she did answer the door. So unfortunately, it cost her marriage. Like her and her husband ended up breaking up. It was a horrible divorce. She lost everything. Like everything just horrible. So word of advice, if you ever hear a knock at the door, don't answer it.
Let's talk about the black-eyed children. According to legend, black-eyed children usually come to your house at night. They'll come to your vehicle if you're alone in the parking lot or places where there aren't many people.
If you guys see this video, take a look at how nice.
It disappears as soon as she pans the camera back.
They usually tell you that they need help with something, or maybe that they're lost, but the main thing is they want to be let in to wherever you are. They'll try and say anything to get inside, and if you tell them no, they'll start to get a little aggressive, being persistent, saying things like, you must let me in, I need to be let in. They'll become extremely desperate, and if you decide to let them in, wait, before I continue, your third act comes to your door with black eyes. Let me know who it is, and would you let them in? You see, black-eyed children are dark entities, and just like vampires, they're not allowed in without permission. If you let them in, they will do unspeakable things.
Was this a black-eyed kid in Mexico, or is it something completely different? This guy says the story he's about to share is a story that he's heard his grandfather share with a lot of people throughout the years. He explains how the story has never changed, it's always remained the same, so he definitely believes what his grandfather said. When his grandfather was little, they lived in a ranch basically far away from the city. This was a large family, so the grandfather was the youngest out of a lot of siblings, and mom and dad, of course. Being that the family was huge and the grandfather wouldn't get a lot of attention, he would end up doing really bad things to his siblings, including the mom. He would prank them. He would just do things that weren't even funny, so he was always getting into trouble. He got into so much trouble that they started punishing him by making him take the goats up to the mountain so that they can go and eat. Side note, this is exactly how they would punish my stepdad too. And I've been to like those mountain places. They're fucking scary. I almost died because I fell and I kept rolling down the fucking hill. I don't know how I held onto a branch and didn't fall off that damn cliff. But anyway, this is not my story. The grandfather really hated that punishment, so the entire way up the mountain he would be cussing, he would be doing like really bad things, including like kicking the goats because he didn't want to do it. So he says that in one of these days where he got punished and he had to go and take the goats up to the mountains, he came up the mountain and onto this clearing. There, he saw this really big rock and decided that he was gonna sit on it just to get some rest. So he'd been sitting on that rock for a while, and then out of nowhere, the goats started acting strange. They were running, they were acting out. It was almost as if they were scared or in like defensive mode. That was also the moment where he felt almost as if something or someone was watching him. He also says that he would hear like leaves ruffling, almost as if somebody was there. He thought that maybe it was an animal, like a coyote or something, but that was also the moment where he heard someone calling his name. He was looking around and didn't see anything, and it was only until he saw this really big bush that had some nopales around it where he saw a little boy who was around 5 or 6 years old. So he saw the little boy and started walking towards him, and when he got a little closer, he noticed that the little boy was naked, and that's when he started to worry because he's like, oh my gosh, is something wrong? What if this little boy got lost up here in the mountain? So he decided he was gonna gonna walk towards the boy a little bit more, but then he stopped altogether, and that was because of what he saw. He saw that that little boy's eyes were completely black. There was no white in them. Meanwhile, the goats had not calmed down. They were still running, being scared, and then ended up behind the grandfather. Like, they just stood behind him. And the grandfather, he just stood very still. He was still trying to think about what exactly he was looking at. Was this a kid? Why is he naked? Why are his eyes completely black? And then that little boy picked up his hand and went like this to the grandfather for him to get closer to him. Bitch, I would start rolling down that hill again and not stop myself. The grandfather was not about to get close to him, so he decided to ignore his little, like, come close to me. And that was also in the moment where that little kid, in a really raspy, deep voice, tells him, come closer. In that moment, the grandfather was like, hell no, I am not getting close to this thing. He decided to start running down that path that he had just came up from, and even the goats were running with him. The grandfather says that he did not have the courage to even look back and see if that little boy was chasing him until he got to the house. Obviously, when he got home, he was agitated. He couldn't breathe. He had just ran all the way there, and he also was not about to tell his family because they weren't going to believe him. So he just decided to, like, lay on the ground underneath a tree and just get his breath back. So as he's laying there trying to catch his breath, trying to have a reason as to what just happened, he said he couldn't. He thought that maybe he was having like a heart attack. He had no idea what was going on. He decided to turn and look at that path just to make sure that little boy was not coming down, and unfortunately that little boy was standing there. He explains how it was too much for him, and when he saw that little kid, he just fainted. When he finally wakes up, he's in his bed and his mom is next to him asking him what happened. The grandfather did tell the mom what happened, and just as he suspected, they did not believe him. The grandfather explains what happened to him was very, very real, and he believes that he bumped into the devil as a lesson because he was misbehaving. He was doing a lot of bad things. He thinks that it was a lesson to tell him, hey, if you continue to do this, I'm gonna take you with me. Honestly, we've heard of black-eyed kids, right? I've never heard of any in Mexico, but also all the stories that we've heard, they're definitely dressed. So why was that little boy naked? Was it a black-eyed kid, or was it something like completely different? But also, why were the goats scared of it? The goats were definitely scared of whatever that was. Anyway, those are just my thoughts. What do you guys think?
What would you do if a child knocked on your door and asked to come inside and their eyes were completely just pitch black? Would you let them in? Would the "this is a child in need" win over this eerie sensation of looking at a creepy looking kid with completely black eyes? And we're not talking the irises here. We're talking completely black, the whole thing. Black-eyed children are said to be paranormal entities that resemble children that are aged between 6 to 16. They're usually portrayed as extremely pale and with completely black eyes. Reports of these children usually come from someone witnessing them hitchhiking, begging, or showing up on the doorstep of residential homes. So creepy. In 1996, there was a man named Brian Bethel, and he was a reporter. Brian reported that he was in his car near a movie theater, and this was in Texas, by the way, and that he was completing a check to pay his internet bill at the time when this occurred. These children approached Brian's car and asked him for a ride home, claiming that they wanted to go to a movie but had forgotten their money. During the encounter, Brian felt this overwhelming sense of fear. The children were insistent on Brian giving them a ride, and this just made him even more fearful and led to him denying their request. The children apparently became more insistent and agitated, which just heightened his anxiety. Brian reported a strange, supernatural, unnatural feeling during the encounter, and he felt like the children had some uncanny knowledge of his thoughts and intentions. Brian ultimately refused to give the children a ride and left the area quickly. He shared his story online, which gained popularity and basically became the emergence of the black-eyed children. Some believe that encounters with black-eyed children are actually encounters with extraterrestrials, vampires, or ghosts, adding a layer of mystery to the phenomena. I think the creepiest stories are the people who say that these black-eyed children have showed up at their home asking them if they can come inside. Let me know in the comments if you've ever had an encounter with black-eyed children or if you know anyone who has. I love hearing sharing these stories, and let me know, do you think that black-eyed children are a real thing, this supernatural phenomenon, or do you think it's just all made up? Anyways, that's it for this one. See you next time.
Let me start by saying that my husband and his family are big time into hunting deer mostly. They hunt a lot of different areas around where we live due to knowing a lot of people, etc. One evening, my brother-in-law was hunting an area that he did frequently and was actually walking back to his truck from being done hunting. It was barely after dark, the time of night where the sun is gone but you can still see just fine outside. He was walking across a pretty open field when he just felt that he wasn't alone. Not like there was an animal or anything, but that he wasn't the only being in that field. He obviously turns around, and about 50 or 60 yards behind him, he sees a kid.
Nope.
A little boy, roughly about 8 or 9 years old. The kid is just standing there, not moving at all, but doesn't look hurt or in distress or anything like that. He actually looked extremely calm. He appeared out of absolutely nowhere. How does a kid just appear in the middle of a field over a mile off of a country road back by the damn woods? He doesn't.
Period.
He was wearing normal clothes and had black hair, but since he was so far away from him, he couldn't make out any of this kid's facial features. My brother-in-law obviously is taken back by seeing another person, much less a kid that clearly wasn't hunting or had any business being back there. No one within any sort of close distance to that property had kids that age or anything. So my brother-in-law yells back at him, "Hey, are you okay? Do you need help?" But the little boy did. My brother-in-law kind of shrugs it off and just keeps walking, assuming he has to belong to someone living nearby, right? He was picking up the pace a bit when he stops and turns around to realize that this little boy is only walking when he starts to freaking walk.
No.
Then also stopping when he stops to turn around and look at him. He yells back at the kid again and says, "Hey, who are you? Are you lost? Do you need help?" But again, the kid says nothing. He just stares at him creepily. This is the point where my brother-in-law thinks, nope, fuck this.
Literally.
And takes off sprinting to his truck, throws his stuff in there, and takes off back home. My now husband, but then just boyfriend, was still living at his parents' house during this time. So he was home when his younger brother showed up, freaking the hell out and told everyone the story. My husband, being scared of literally nothing, I don't know, was like, okay, then somebody needs to go around and see if anyone is missing a kid. My brother-in-law explained he did not think this was just some ordinary kid that was taking a walk and got lost. He explained how off the whole thing felt. Obviously, that's why he sprinted over a mile back to his truck, carrying all his heavy-ass hunting gear. But then, of course, my husband leaves and goes around to all the neighbors. But of course, no one at all was missing or looking for a young boy. Again, we live in a very rural area, so it's not like there was a known missing child that just wandered into the woods or anything like that. My husband then went back to the area his brother was hunting, and of course, no kid. This kid was just gone. To this day, no one can explain who the kid was, how he just magically popped up in the middle of the field, or why he wouldn't speak or even react to my brother-in-law speaking to him. Of course, when I heard this story, I always assumed he was some sort of ghost, until I listened to your episode on Black-Eyed Kids, and immediately thought, oh my God, that's what was in the field with him that day.
Yep.
Anyway, I hope this scared the shit out of you and it makes a creepy account cut. Love you, ladies. Keep making the best podcast ever.
My son wakes me up. He's like, Mom, you need to bless my room. I'm like, calm down. I said, what, you had an ET encounter? Because I was, man. I said, they became fond of me. They about time somebody came up in your room. He said, no, Mom. I don't think this was an ET. This was a demon. I said, what are you talking about? He said, I woke up. Something woke me up, Mom. And it's like 6:30 in the morning, so it's still dark. He said, but I seen her, Mom. I seen her. I said, what did you see? He said, it was a little girl standing at the foot of my bed, Mom. And she had black eyes. I said, hold up, wait a minute. I said, what the heck? I said, it was a demon? He said, I don't know. I thought you let a kid in the house. I said, I didn't let no damn kid in the house. I was asleep. We started Googling, just like we do everything else we experience. We Google, and we try to see if we can find anything to match it. Black-eyed children. There was one in my son's room in 2022. standing at the foot of his bed. I woke up, I came out of my room October the 25th. There was something dark in my son's room. I cleansed the house around 9:30, 10 o'clock. At 11 o'clock, my camera picks up 3 odd children that I don't know where they came from, y'all, outside my house. Y'all saw the video. That is why I kind of, you see what I'm saying? That's where I connected the dots. They never came back. I've been outside. I've been looking ever since. Where these kids at? It ain't the kids over there. I know them kids. Where they come from? That ship that was going by. That was a signal he was sending up. We ready? Pick us back up. These are alien creatures, y'all. Don't be deceived.
It's called I Thought That the Black-Eyed Children Were Just an Urban Legend.
Oh, I love the Black-Eyed Children.
Until I met one. This is a true story by a guy who ran a paranormal YouTube channel. I don't know his name, but his friends were called Sam and Becky. Okay? It's mental. Okay. And it takes place at Cannock Chase, which is right by where I live.
Oh.
Yeah.
Cannock Chase.
If you've ever heard of Cannock Chase in the United Kingdom, then you have probably also heard a lot of ghost stories surrounding it. It is supposed to be. I've been on Cannock Chase. It's spooky as fuck. Most famous one, however, has to be about the Black-Eyed Children of Cannock Chase. I've heard of this before. It's totally true. I had heard a lot of the stories, but never really believed in it myself. Me and my friends Sam and Becky, we run a fairly successful paranormal YouTube channel. We mostly film around the West Midlands and in haunted locations. We mainly do stuff like using a Ouija board, asking spirits to communicate with us and pretending like we're making contact with them. Me and Becky will be the people on the channel who go out and try and communicate with the spirits, and Sam is the cameraman who occasionally throws a rock in the background so we can all go, what was that?
Oh, but these need to be our new best friends.
Yeah, I love them, sound great. We were celebrating our 4th anniversary of doing this YouTube channel and we wanted to do a special video. Living in Wolverhampton, Cannock Chase is about a half-hour drive away, so it made sense to do it in such a popular location. We arrived there dead on midnight and filmed for a few hours with nothing happening. During our usual Ouija board ritual, we called on the Black-Eyed Children to make contact with us. We mocked and imitated them, making contact with us, and even had Becky act like she had been possessed. When we were finished, we decided to head back to our car. Sam was going to take the footage home with him to edit. When we arrived at our car, Becky noticed a couple of kids. He must have been no older than 15. They were slowly making their way to the car. Sam made a comment about how it was kind of ironic and a little bit creepy, but we got in our car and drove off without waiting to see what they wanted. I know, it's kind of an asshole thing to do, but we didn't want to become the victims of a robbery or... I mean, just leave. Just go. Stark. Go. You've got no idea. The next night, I was lying in bed, when all of a sudden, my dog started to go absolutely crazy downstairs. I went down to see what was going on. As I got closer, I remembered this immense feeling of terror coming over me. My dog was facing the door, hackles up. There was a knock at the door. I looked out of the window and I immediately felt sick to my stomach. 2 children, one boy around 15 and one girl who must have been no older than 11 was standing outside. You must let us in, the boy said. We need to call our mother. The way he spoke was not typical of children from Wolverhampton at all. He sounded posh, but something was off in the tone. I can't quite make out what, though. Why do you need to call your mum? I asked. Why do you need to call your mum?
Is that the Wolverhampton accent?
This is Birmingham. I think anyone from Birmingham or Wolverhampton will not appreciate that, but I'm going to do it anyway. Why do you need to call your mum? I asked. This time the girl spoke. You must let us in. Our mother will be very worried. I felt my hand going for the door. I was terrified. In my subconscious, I knew what they were exactly, but I was almost like I was in a trance. I was oblivious to my dog going crazy behind me when all of a sudden, he did something that he's never done before. He bit me in the back of the leg.
Oh?
He bit me so hard that it drew blood. I snapped out of it then. I immediately pulled away from the door. The 2 came to the window and stared at me. Their eyes were completely black. This time they spoke together. You wanted to speak to us last night, but we couldn't catch up with you. You must let us in. It won't take long. I remember grabbing my dog and running up the stairs. The knocking continued all night. It was getting louder and louder and more furious as the night went on.
That's just someone having a wank in the bush.
Yeah, I immediately called Sam and Becky and told them what had happened. They told me that the same thing had happened to them too, but they couldn't snap out of it. They'd let them in.
Oh dear.
I asked them what had happened. They said the kids walked around the house for a bit and then they left. They said that the whole time they were there, they also felt this immense sense of terror and doom. We never did upload the video to YouTube. Doing so just made it feel like if we'd done that, it would have been inviting them to come back. A few weeks later, I got a message from Sam's brother. Him and Becky had been involved in a car accident. They'd been driving near Cannock Chase when they lost control of the car and wrapped it round a tree. They did not make it. And this is like a true thing.
Fuck.
I have no way of telling for sure whether them letting the black-eyed children into their house was the cause for this, but the fact that they did and that they died near Cannock Chase and I didn't makes me think that if I had let them in, I would be dead too. I still get nightmares of them. I still sometimes worry that they're going to stand outside my door one day and ask me to let them in. I wake up in the middle of the night screaming, terrified. I spend hours at night debating whether to take a peek outside the window, because if I do and they're there, they may see me. But the thought of not looking is equally terrifying, because what if they're there just waiting patiently, waiting for me to slip up? Well, I won't, do you hear me? I won't. I've taken precautions now. I've gotten myself some more dogs. Lots of dogs. It's a house full of dogs. Because if one of them can stop me from opening the door, maybe half a dozen will scare them off for good. And I never leave the house without them. They follow me everywhere. Some people think that I'm crazy, but I'm not crazy. I'm just being safe because they're not going to get me. I promise, I swear, they're not going to get me.
That's horrible.